What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall market. I'm also going to break down why it's very possible for Tesla to reach $300 very, very soon if we break particular levels of resistance. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Weeble link. If you deposit any amounts of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500 or more, you're guaranteed 20, and deposit $2,000 or more, you're guaranteed 40. The offer ends very soon in just about 5 days. Anyways, now let's talk about Tesla. So, one thing worth mentioning is that Tesla's market cap is very insignificant compared to how large the overall market is. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people when you kind of think about how much money there is in the stock market, but you have to remember the stock market is worth, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. Tesla's not even at a $1 trillion market cap yet. So that's something that's very, very important and worth noting. So when I say that, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with anything? Well, the answer is there's so much money on the sidelines. You have to remember how many big investors there are, these massive Black Rocks, the others out there who are just involved in the sidelines. The amount of money that's been invested in treasuries is just absolutely astronomical. So there is enough money to get this thing to run to the trillions. Believe it or not, it's there. We're not really worried about that aspect. The question is, can money kind of flow from different equities, from different assets, flow from them, out of them, back into Tesla? And the answer is that's already starting to happen as we're starting to see a lot of big investors getting involved in the company. And that's because they're very excited about earnings and also because of manipulation and other factors like that. But I will talk more about that in a later video. So the question is there enough steam to cause this thing to break out and hit that $300 price target? And the answer is yes, but we need to break some key levels first to get there. There are going to be some tough resistance areas for Tesla to break for us to really run, but I still see the potential in this setup. So I'll talk more about this in just a minute. Just know a couple of things. For the week that's coming up, we have a lot of data coming out. I went over this in more detail yesterday, but just know that for Tuesday, we have some job numbers. For Wednesday, we have GDP numbers. For Thursday, we have PCE data inflationary numbers. So pretty crazy stuff. Almost every day, we have something big. Then we have more unemployment numbers and then the manufacturing numbers on Friday. So Tuesday through Friday are going to be very important for our data going into the next week. Can't wait to see what things look like. It's going to somewhat affect Tesla. And then we also have big earnings coming out, especially between Tuesday and Thursday. We have a lot of big tech earnings from Microsoft to Meta to Amazon, Apple, and just a bunch of them. So be ready for all of that. So all of those things are external factors that could affect Tesla to some extent. But as far as Tesla's been moving, I just think that what really happened was there was a lot of manipulation involved in Tesla stock because Tesla was dipping right before earnings. It was dipping ever since the Robotaxi event, but they could have been planning this from the start. They could have been dumping it because of the fact that they could start buying at very, very cheap values because they were getting ready to run Tesla up. Now, I want to call out that Tesla had very good margins. They were actually better than expected. We saw the Cybertruck hit profitability, and then their guidance was very, very big. It was very nice for Q4. Musk was telling us to expect new records, not to mention 2025 holding a 20 to 30% volume growth. So, very, very good stuff. And investors absolutely loved it, right? So, with the big moves Tesla's doing, we had this big gap, but we're seeing this big rally. Will Tesla continue the rally? And the answer is most likely it has potential. And I want to just call out that when you look at the chart on the daily time frame, this looks very symmetrical. If you guys look at this very carefully, we have a very, very symmetrical looking structure if you just look at the way that this is looking. So if I draw this out just like this, we draw like a vertical line here. Notice how the right is just trying to resemble the left side. I can actually draw this out very, very simply just to show you. So this move right over here is just like, this move here resembles something very, very interesting. That is very, very similar to this move right here. How we had this like little pump up here, we came down, and we made this other move. And then you could also even argue that what if, right, this dip right here. So we had the second dip over here. That is what led Tesla from 300. So we were at 300. We were at $300 a share. We came down on our initial dip, came back up, and then we just started this symmetrical structure. And we have something very similar going on here. So, what if the same thing is going on with this second dip that we saw very recently after the robotaxi event and Tesla's deliveries reports. And now we're on our way up to that 300 target like this. See how symmetrical this looks, guys? You guys can see the symmetry very, very nicely with the way I drew this out. It's just a theory, but sometimes we do see charts have inverse head and shoulders and very symmetrical structures that could lead to a lot more upside. So I just want to call that out and give you guys just a little bit of a different perspective. Why will Tesla run up more? Because there's so much hype and there's so much momentum building because volume is really building. And also, I just want to call out that um, we have this resistance at this 270 area. So this is where this tough zone is going to be. We'll have to see if Tesla could crack through this or not, especially given the external factors involved in the markets. If we break that resistance, I'm going to be looking at this resistance right here next, just under 280. So this is going to be our next very, very tough area. Break 270 and 278. Just break those two levels, guys. And this thing is going to be filling the gap, in my opinion. I think we go up to 300 if that breaks. So I just think we're just getting started. I think there's going to be a lot of momentum coming, but we need to break these resistance levels for confirmation. Another thing that's worth mentioning about the bull trend that Tesla's on is this. When you look at an extended trend line like this, it was holding support. We had this support here. We were holding this very, very nicely the whole time. Just like how when Tesla was dipping, we were holding a support like this. See how well this held up. It wasn't perfect, but it was very, very close. And I think that this adjusted as time went on. But I'm just trying to say that for the most part, Tesla was trying to hold support like this. It was also like this. But it doesn't matter at this point because Tesla loves to hold particular supports. And in this case, I think that because we got a bounce off our daily 200 EMA, we remain more bullish. So the daily looks very bullish, but what else looks very bullish is this. When you look at the weekly time frame, this also looks very, very bullish because we're fighting resistance. We have a very, very strong green bar, and generally, what happens when you have big green bars like this, let me just look at some historical data just to show you this. When you have like really big gap ups in like a green bar, just like this one right here, what tends to happen is you get another green bar, and we'll see if that leads to like a rejection or not. But we tend to get like a follow through move that happened that week right there. This week right here, we saw Tesla pump, and we got another green weekly bar after that. After a nice weekly bar, we got another green one. Usually get sets of two, right? If you look at this right here, we had a weekly bar right here, which was followed by more green. This weekly bar was very strong with a little bit more green, and the list goes on, right? So this weekly bar right here is very, very strong, very, very bullish. My only concern is the fact that we ran so far so fast. So it is possible we get a little bit of a dip before it tries to continue to push. But later on during the week, okay, if we crack past 270 and then 278, it's only 8 points. We saw Tesla run dozens of points in a single day, so it could run that much. If we get good data, if the market tries to bounce, if the stars align for Tesla, we break 278, then I think yes, we have a $300 price target. I think a lot of the analysts out there who are saying Tesla's going to 300 or above, I think it's correct. I think it's going to happen if we break that resistance. But notice on the weekly, guys, look how well this setup is looking. Look at the weekly. It was holding the support very nicely. So it loves to hold these trend lines. It was also holding this very, very nicely. And then we have that symmetry that's also being adjusted off this inverse head and shoulders. So there is most definitely potential for this to pump even more if we break these particular resistance levels. So do I think we're going to do it? I think the odds favor Tesla trying more because you can't just run and run and run and just completely flop just like that. It's not like Tesla. Even during periods where Tesla was trying to run to this resistance, we still went a little bit higher before we saw this thing slow down. So it should try to go a little higher before it slows down. That's what I'm starting to think. But it depends if we break that resistance. So make sure you watch that just for confirmation. Now, when it comes to SPY is in its own world because just to call this out, we still have this rising wedge-like structure. I think I drew this out on the 4-hour time frame, so it looks a little bit different. So my concern is we do have a rising wedge on SPY, and we have the election coming up. It's a very, very interesting correlation. I do want to mention we have a lot of gaps to fill below on SPY, so I think there's going to be a corrective phase coming, but it might not happen until after the election. Maybe we may not get the real corrective phase until after the election. It's still possible we kind of like dip a bit, rebound, and just continue this kangaroo styled boomerang market that we're going back and forth between supply and demand. We could continue this for another week or so, but after the election, there could be that sell off. It could be directly after the election, it could be closer to December. But I believe in that November to December period, there's going to be a moment we get a very sharp decline because the first reason is we have a triple bearish divergence developing on the charts. That's one confluence. Then you have a rising wedge, number two. Number three, you have a lot of gaps to fill below. So there's a lot of reasons to believe that, especially because we didn't get our historical seasonal, downtrend. Usually, what tends to happen is we dump approaching the election, then we get a big rally after the election. Instead, it could be the opposite. It could be that we're not going to dump approaching the election. We actually rally approaching the election. We hold up. We could start a bit of a decline, kind of like a sideways phase approaching the election, but we're still technically bullish. And then the real downtrend may not start until closer to the election, if not after it. So that could be what's about to be happening. So it's just a possibility. If you look at stocks like ES or many others, we have a lot of gaps to fill below. So I still think we're bound to do that. So I'll be waiting for those. But that's my view. So how will that affect Tesla? If the whole market starts crumbling, whether it's right before the election or maybe after the election, that could drag Tesla down. That's why I would recommend, non financial advice when I say this, but if I were trading Tesla and I was holding options, I would take a lot of profits. Okay, I'm just referring to options. This is mainly just like a trading channel. So I'm not talking about a long term investment. I have long term investments in Tesla for many years to come. But for the short term, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take profits on those gains. So if this runs more, awesome. We can try to fill this gap. Hopefully, it happens before the election. That would be a lot better because if the whole market starts a corrective phase, that could still affect Tesla. So you guys want to be very, very conscious of that, very careful. But overall, we're doing a good job at holding up very symmetrical looking structure, nice inverse head and shoulders. So this chart is favoring that it wants to push higher and try to get up to 300, in my opinion. Let's hope this happens before the election. Maybe it will. I don't know for sure. It depends on when we break these levels. But if we start breaking them sooner than expected, we could be looking for that gap fill. We could be looking for this rally to continue. And then, after that, if the whole market corrects, Tesla could also get dragged back down. I want to make that very clear. Tesla could still get affected by a potential market correction. So that's the reason why I'm saying it's not a bad idea to take profits on those options. Okay. So non financial advice, but this is a very, very brief video just to give you guys some insights on what I see for Tesla. If we break some key levels, I do expect more upside and we'll see how things end up going. Don't forget that for the week, we have big tech earnings and big data. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Until then, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll be back with another video tomorrow to give you guys more insights on the broader markets where I'll be talking about like AMD, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and a bunch of other stocks. So until then, please enjoy the rest of your guys' weekend. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully around 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe before that, I'll try to be a little bit earlier. And I'll see you guys very soon. So I thank you for listening and peace out.